Okay, welcome to the second part of the questionnaire design process. So we're going to be looking at the different question types, like where I stopped before I stopped. You have different types of data. The normal way we could look at data types, especially in data science, it's we saying that you have integers, that is numbers, you have floats, that is decimals, you have boolean, that is true or false, you have and other types of data. But when we ask questions and we're trying to put these questions into a software like Jamovi or like SPSS or like Stata or like R, right? Any of these tools you're going to be using, you want to decide whether your data is going to be numeric or is going to be textual data. Now, even when your data is textual, because you're trying to do a quantitative analysis, you're going to be entering this data as numbers. When we start doing the hands-on, I will explain this a little bit more and give you case studies and examples for both nominal and ordinal, for scale, for binary, that is a true or false, yes or no, and for scale. So I'll give you typical examples for each of these ones as we work on actual data. Okay, next thing is we have some activities here. So you have some sample questions. So you could work on this on your own or with somebody around you that you're taking this course together with. In pairs of small group or small groups, refer to the sample questions handout, look at each of them, spend 1 minute in each of the questions. And what you want to do is to try to see what is wrong with each of the questions. Right, from question 1 to 4. Look at these questions. What do you think is wrong? So you can pause the video, try to guess what might be the issues with the questions, and start up the questions. And I'm going to tell you what the answer is. Okay, if you are back, right, and you want to know what the answers to the questions are, because here you're trying to learn how to design questionnaires, trying to learn how to put up a question so that you get the best response. You are not suggestive. You make sure you have enough options for the student or whoever is going to be the respondent. Smoking in public places should not be abolished, right? Smoking in public places should not be abolished. So there's a problem here because you have a negative. This is a negative. So for somebody to answer in the positive, he has to respond as a no. Smoking should not be abolished. So you're already making a statement, it should not be abolished. So what should be asking is that, should smoking be abolished in public places? So that is more of a question, whereas this is more or less a statement. So should not be abolished. So yes means no, no means yes. You see the problem about having to ask the questions in the negative, because if you say smoking in public places should not be abolished, if you say yes, that means you're saying that it should not be abolished. If you say no, that means you say yes, it should be abolished. So you don't want to ask questions in negatives or in positives. You want to ask questions in an open-ended format so that once somebody is replying, he can easily make the good guess. What percentage of your annual salary do you spend on petrol? So this is kind of a complex question. You shouldn't be asking this kind of question because it's going to be difficult for somebody to check what percent of his annual salary is going to spend on petrol. A better way to ask this question is to ask what amount of amount he spends on petrol per day or per week. That is much easier. Then when you collect this data as an analyst, you can now create a new column in your table and now calculate for 1 year, right? You could take 20 working days in a month or 24 working days in a month, depending, and you do your calculations to get the other figures. But if you ask the person what percentage of his annual salary is going to spend on petrol per year, it may be a difficult calculation for the person to do. The next one is, if students were to receive more discounts, where would be most appropriate? Now, this list is not kind of exhaustive, because if you say restaurant, what about library? What about the gym? What about other areas? So when you're trying to give responses to questions or options for questions, you want to make sure that you're exhaustive as possible. Now, how much money do you spend per week on alcohol, if any? Now, you have 0, you have 10 to 20, you have 1 to 5, you have 30 to 40, you have 40 to 50, you have 50 above. You can pause the video, guess what the issue might be, and I will give you an answer shortly. Okay, welcome back. So you have 0. The question is that there's no exclusivity, and you don't have inclusive answers also. It's not exhaustive also. If you have 0, where is okay, this is 0, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where is 6, 7, 8, 9? So it's missing. Then you continued from 10 to 20. I can't see 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. But you continued from 30. 30 to 40. Okay, there's a problem here, 40 to 50. So you shouldn't have 30 to 40 and 40 to 50, because if somebody picked this answer and another person picked this answer, all the persons here are also here. So there's no exclusive. This is not exclusive from this particular option. So you should say 30 to 20, 39, then you continue from 40, right? Then you have a problem here also, 50 to 50, then you have 50 plus. So you should be saying from 51 plus. So those are some of the issues you have with this questionnaire. So these are the answers here. So question wording should be clear and unambiguous. Avoid double negatives. That's question 1, what we just looked at. This is it. Should not be abolished. So this is a negative. You need another negative to become a positive to get the correct answer. Question should not be too difficult to answer. That's question 2. What percentage of annual salary do you spend on petrol? It should not be too difficult. Now, responses should exhaust all possible options or have a residual option like other. So if you're asking, okay, what amount, where do you want to spend your discount, or where should you be giving discount as a student? Now you have restaurants, supermarkets, bar, there's no library, there's no gym, there's no other extracurricular activities, right? So it's not exhaustive, and you didn't give option for other. Then response should be mutually exclusive. So that's the problem about this particular last one. So they are not exclusive. If you see this one, you see that you have 30 to 40, and here this option is still the same thing as this option, because anybody that his age, for instance, is 40, if he's here, he's also here, even if he doesn't choose this particular option. So I have more questions for you to look at. So I have another set of 5 questions. So you could go through it. Let us know what the options are. And if you have questions, you can always comment in the comment section, and I'm going to answer your question. If you have observation, if you have questions you want to ask, don't forget to comment. And if you're new to the channel at this point in time, if you like the value that you're getting, you can always like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button. If you need more explanation, more videos on the concepts exploring, don't forget to also ask in the comment section, and I will do justice to that. Number 5, are you thinking of booking a family holiday for this summer? That's a problem also. Are you thinking of booking, right? So it's kind of suggestive. Wouldn't you agree that the government decision to reclassify cannabis as a Class B drug is the right one? So this is also suggestive. So the idea is always you want to keep it as plain as possible so that people can make an answer without being like coerced into making those responses. How would you rate our service? Excellent, very good, good, undecided, poor. Okay, for this answer, you have an issue with balance, neutrality. I think in the subsequent videos I've talked about the Likert scale in a very, very detailed manner. So please check out that video on Likert scale, and it will help you understand how to rate your options. You have up to like 10, 15 different options for your Likert scale. Have you ever stolen stationery from work for home use? So these questions, you won't have response. You won't have honest responses. So look for a way to ask these questions so that you don't have, so that you have actual honest responses. Do you have or have you ever had a health condition which has lasted for over 6 months and has limited, you also have grammar issues here, limited the kind of work you can do? So this is kind of complex because there's so many conditions to meet. You said have you or have you don't have a health condition. Second condition is that it's lasting for 6 months. Third condition is that is it limiting you from working? So there's a lot of things the person needs to wrap around his head to be able to answer the question. So avoid possible incorrect response. You have boxes next to the wrong response. That's this first one, right? You see, if I'm taking yes, for instance, is it this one? If I'm taking no, is it this one? If I'm taking not sure, is this one? Or is this not sure for this? So you want to get them close as much as possible. I don't make it complex for people to answer. Bias scaling, that has to do with the option of, I think question 7. Yes, how would you rate our services? So you want to have a proper Likert scale measurement. So check out the video on that. Then overcomplicated questions, that's question 9. Do you have or have you ever had a health condition which has lasted for over 6 months and have limited the kind of work you do? So this is kind of complex. So I have to meet all of the conditions first to know whether to answer a yes or a no. Okay, so let's look at more ideas about creating your questionnaires. Now, rank the following television programs in order that you watch them. Indicate the most watched channel with a 1 and a least watched channel with a 0. So this is kind of cumbersome. It will be difficult for me to rate them. So you want me to rank them in order of my preference. So if I say 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, it's going to be difficult for me to do. Indicate you agree or disagree. A chemical used in food production that has a negligible cancer risk should be prohibited, even though it delays spoilage, prevents parasiticity, or prolonged storage. Now, so what's the issue? So avoid using to rank too many items, and numbers don't make sense, right? So you could use Likert scale also. Anything within the range of 5 or 7, that's the standard. You could use that to do your ranking. So in fact, it is better to avoid ranking questions altogether as they are difficult to analyze. Ask them about each item individually, then rank the mean response value. Ensure a questionnaire is the best vehicle for collecting your data. For instance, in number 11. So question design principles. Make the very first few questions about demography. So things like their biodata, their age, their gender, their geographical location, their maybe status or any of such, depending on the kind of research you're carrying out. So all of those basic information that can also help you in the future do some comparative analysis between groups, right? Later on in the course, you're going to be learning about different types of tests, comparative tests, predictive tests, descriptive tests, maybe running charts and pie charts, bar charts, histogram, and the rest. So if you don't do those basic things, they might not be necessarily part of the research work, but you need them to be able to do some kind of analysis. You need to know how many females you have. You need to know how many males you have. You need to have the age ranges, the kids you have, the youngsters, the teenagers, the adults, the mid-range aged. You need the elder citizens, right? So you need that so that you can compare. For instance, if you are checking for disease, if you want to check for disease control, if you want to check for disease prevalence, if you want to check for access to healthcare or access to whatever you want to do, you want to make sure that you take all of those demography and so that it can help you analyze your data properly. Then have your most important questions. Leave open complex questions to the end, right? I will normally say, for me as a principal, out of every 10 questions, just have one open-ended or complex question. You shouldn't even have complex question, but if you want to leave it open-ended for people to fill up and say their mind so that it can help you understand your study better, then leave it towards the end. Keep it very simple at the beginning. Introduce the questionnaire. Tell us about yourself. Tell us why you need to carry out this survey. Tell us why it is important that we fill this form. Tell us the advantage, the benefit that the country, the populace, for the good of humanity. What's that benefit? And that helps you to have a lot of responses. Once you're done with that, the first set of questions you want to ask is demography. Things like, you don't actually need age. Sorry, you don't actually need name, the age, the gender, the if it's medical stuff, blood group, if it's tech stuff, maybe your profession and the rest. So you take all of those basic data, maybe first 4 or 5 questions, they are all easy to fill up. Then before you can now start going to the different sections of the questionnaire. Then avoid very similar questions except you're trying to construct a scale, right? Minimize bias, socially acceptable response. Like this question, where you were asking if somebody have stolen papers in the office to use at home. So who would want to answer this question? Have you ever stolen stationery from work or home? Right? So there's a lot of bias. You have a lot of bias, people trying to fill up that. Okay, so what are some of the demographic questions you can ask? Age, gender, level of education, social economic background, employment, region. So this helps you to do quite a lot of stuff because you can be comparing maybe a particular prevalence of disease to gender, maybe diabetes to gender, HIV prevalence to gender. You can be looking at if you're doing a survey that has to do with let's say salary for tech experts, or what is the level of satisfaction of tech or techies around a particular country or a geographical location. So you can be checking the gender to the how much they are earning. You can be checking the gender to the range of satisfaction with the employee or with the employer. You can be checking. So you can do a lot of stuff once you have these demographic questions. So it's useful for comparing groups. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to talk about different types of tests. So it's useful for comparison. Only ask what you need. Don't ask what you actually don't need. So you could keep the questions few. Questions layout. Good layout can increase response rate. So you want to group the questions. You don't want to have questions in different sections, very, very unclear. You cannot ask somebody's age. Then the next thing you're asking the person's likes or dislike. After 5, 10 questions in that range, you now ask the person's gender. After you ask some other questions about the person's family and maybe access to healthcare or access to tech learning or access to interest in tech and blah, 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 you now come back to come and ask, okay, what's your employment status? So you have to group the questions, right? You have to group the question. So that helps you make a better comparison. Okay, make the design eye-catching, be clear, group questions logically, sequence the questions sensibly, use consistent wording and answer format, be polite. So these are the things that improve your responses. Questionnaire evaluation. So in pairs or in small groups or individually, if you're watching this video from home or from work, you can evaluate one of the questionnaire provided according to the principle given on the checklist, national student survey, parents questionnaire, coffee consumption, diabetes questionnaire. Report back your findings to the main group. I will drop also something on a survey of students of the training. I will drop something on a particular product launch. I will drop, let's say, 2, 3, and we'll evaluate it, and you could report your findings. I've talked about Likert scale in the previous video, so I'll skip this section. So, like I said, Likert scale should always be 5 or 7, and I give you several options. So I also drop some of the details in the group. So you want neutrality always. You want something to the far positive, something to the far negative. So these are different examples. I've exhausted that. So what's Likert scale, right? So many people prefer to rate using Likert scales. So Likert scale is a series of numbered rating scale questions which are used to measure a response to a series carefully developed attitude statements. They are focus groups. So there are quite a number of them. And like I said, I exhausted it in the previous video, 2 videos before this in the series. So you can always check it out. So questionnaire design process, don't let the tail wag the dog. Do not start designing your questionnaire by simply asking questions. No. So let the dog wag the tail. So don't let the tail wag the dog. Don't put the horse or the cat before the dog, what's it called again? Before the horse. So you want to make sure that you do the right things first. Like I said earlier on, the entire process for your questionnaire design is first your research question. What do you want to study about? What kind of data do you want to get? It's when you've decided that, then you cannot decide the kind of questions you're going to be asking. Then you group the different sections of the questionnaire. Then you now ask the questions. When you ask the question, always make sure that you first do a simple pilot survey for few persons. Once the responses come out, then can I give you a better idea to restructure the question, then send it out for the actual survey. Always pilot your questionnaire with a few friends before carrying out fully. This will help you check integrity, check for things that you are missing, because your friends might say, okay, I needed this additional option. Okay, why don't you have this? Why don't you have this? I'm not in so and so category. So it helps you make sure that you cover all the things that you need to cover. Okay, recap. So we looked at what questionnaire is, how to maximize response rate, different data types. For data types, when we start doing the hands-on, I will explain that more. Question design principles, how to lay it out, then the ratings, then the question design process. Thank you very much. Don't forget to leave a comment and ask questions if you find anything not very clear.